Hello and welcome to the Big League Show. As always, I'm Connor Somerville, and today I'm joined by Aiden Siliphant and Matthew Choi. Matthew, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Aiden, how are you doing today? Figured I'd switch it up a little bit.
I'm doing ecstatic today. Considering the Leafs won yesterday, I'm in a good mood today, and I'm excited to finally talk some hardcore NHL today.
Yeah, it feels good to be back after 4 months having absolutely nothing and training camp for 2 weeks, which
Yeah.
nobody could really watch. But let's just sort of dive into Matt and sort of his entire story in sport media. Let's start at the very beginning and sort of get into why, like, what in your childhood do you think really influenced you into choosing sport media to be your industry for the future?
Well, I mean, since I was a child, sports has always been a big part of my life. I remember when I first actually got into sports. I think I was only 4 years old. It was actually Leafs versus Flyers playoff series in the semifinals, and at the time was when I was just first learning about what hockey was, and the only two teams I knew were Toronto Maple Leafs and the Philadelphia Flyers. And that game, the series ends with Jeremy Roenick scoring at adult four, and the Flyers advancing the series. And I remember I was watching that game with my brother, and my brother was a huge Leafs fan, enormous Leafs fan. And during that time, we also we'd always play NHL 02 on the PlayStation, and he'd always be a Leafs. And since the only team I knew then was the Flyers, I was kind of out of spite choose the Flyers because I knew he hated them.
Nice.
And then as I grew older, I kind of started to learn more about the Flyers, kind of watch the team, kind of excite the players, and I became a huge Philadelphia Flyers fan. And I started to excite more hockey. Eventually, I started branching out to other sports like NBA and NFL, and just became a huge sports fan. And
Nice.
That's sick. That's cool
yeah,
how one team really kind of influenced your decision. I don't think we've seen that from other kids in our program. It's mostly been they played a sport growing up or they had a parent or someone in the industry that kind of led them. But it's cool that from a young age, I guess 2 years old, if you were playing NHL 02, you started liking the Flyers and that kind of just took off. So what exactly about the Flyers, I guess, stood out to you so much and I guess influenced you to watch them and watch hockey?
I mean, it was the first game I ever watched, and it was the first team I actually ever saw win. And as in a young age, that kind of influenced me a lot. And I grew up watching players like Simon Gagne. He was one of my favorite players growing up. And then as I got older, we drafted Claude Giroux, who is currently my favorite player. And we see players like Danny Briere and Mike Richards and Jeff Carter come in. And overall, it's just a team that I've kind of just grew up watching.
Hmm. Let's sort of dive into your high school experience then, because obviously you started with the Flyers, then you sort of, as you mentioned, transitioned to other sports. What sort of pinned you down to being interested in the sport media program, and when did you sort of find out about it?
I definitely found out about it in grade 12 when I was starting to look into universities. And the thing is, I've always wanted to kind of have a job involved in sports because I love watching, I love playing sports as well. But I knew at a young age, growing up to be an athlete wasn't really a realistic goal. I knew that wasn't really going to be something I could do in the future. So I was actually starting to go into engineering in grade 12. I was taking a lot of classes for that, but halfway through grade 12, near the end of the first semester, I realized I really didn't want to. And I remember going to the university fair and actually hearing about this program. So I thought, okay, you leave like engineering as a backup, but I'll kind of revert my attention to sport media and try to focus on that stuff. Because I didn't feel like I'm not going to be really trying as hard for something that's actually harder. Might as well do something that's something I'll enjoy more. So I kind of just chose sport media, and here I am
What was
That's
that
great.
application process like then?
for sport media.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
like just sort of getting all the stuff done, finding your references. What was the whole interview process like? Everything along those lines.
Oh, I see. Well, for me, I took a lot of classes in high school that were media related, and then I also I had a pretty good relationship with my English teacher as well. because I had them for several years. Because my school is pretty small, so you kind of just knew your teachers pretty well. So I was able to ask my teachers for reference, and like, yeah, and since I was taking also like a lot of engineering classes as well and science classes, like I was able to use my marks there to also kind of like boost my average and help me to get into the program. And yeah, so I did the typical applications that I think everyone got, like the essay questions, and then I think it was around March when I got the interview.
Mhm.
You know, it's during March break. I remember I believe the question I got for the application at Ryerson was write about a sport movie and like why that's like should influence, and like how does that like relate to like sports as a whole. And I think I wrote it on, I forgot what movie I wrote it on. I think I wrote it on Creed. I think because I thought I wanted to write about how
Creed.
sports like
Okay.
they tell story, and how like in sports a good story that everyone cares about is legacy, and how important that is to gain sports no matter what sport it is. And then yeah, the guy kind of just asked me questions about that, and since what I want to do in sport media is kind of tell stories through sports, that's kind of just what it's based on.
So who was your interviewer? We always like to hear about this.
I actually have no idea. I have not seen him at Ryerson since.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
we haven't had that yet.
interesting.
I have
Huh.
not seen my interviewer since. It's really strange. I've actually been looking around. I'm thinking, I wonder where this like prof is, but like I haven't seen him.
It's a guy. It was a guy.
It's a guy.
Hmm.
I assume that maybe I remember him saying he was a third or fourth year prof, so I thinking maybe I'll see him like in the coming years, but I
Maybe.
haven't seen him at school yet. I forgot his
Interesting.
name, so
So how
Huh.
how was that interview with him? Do you think, I guess, coming out of the interview, did you think that you did well, or were you kind of up in the air about it?
I mean, I never really come out with anything just expecting me to like, oh, I think I did well, and I'm always on like doubting, like, okay, I think I said something smart there, but I think I may have said something wrong there. But like, I think something that gave me a little comfort was he noted how I was different from other people he interviewed. 'Cause I think most people he interviewed up to that point was talking about how they want to be on air, but I was kind of talking more about how I wants to do behind the scenes, like work with cameras, do writing, and like all that. So I think that kind of like got his attention. So I was hoping that would influence him to select me.
Huh. That's interesting. I think you are the first person we've had that doesn't necessarily want to be on air, except for maybe Daniel Janicus. I don't think he
Yeah.
wanted to be on air coming into it. But that's really interesting. So you applied. When did you find out that you got in?
I got in around, I think it was near the end. It was like, I think late May. I think it's actually fun to start that because since I was kind of like last minute changing what I wanted to do like from engineering to media, I had to like drop certain courses and like take others. So like a lot of my first semester classes I wasn't going to submit, and they actually had to email me saying that my marks up to that point wouldn't actually, like, I forgot who it was, but someone actually emailed me, can you give us your current marks before your midterm, and then we'll put you on the wait list if once your midterms actually come out. And so I sent them my marks, and then when the midterms came out, and like a few weeks later, they said I was accepted.
Okay.
Huh. That's the first time I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. 'Cause so obviously, sport media was your first, but your backup was engineering. Did that sort of influence you at all in terms of your application process? The fact that you did have a backup?
I mean, a part of me was like, I mean, engineering, it's not an easy program to get into either.
Yeah.
It's far from an easy thing. So I was also kind of considering might not even get into engineering either. So I might as well, like, I was kind of thinking, even though it is my backup, I'm putting way more attention into sport media one. And at a certain point, like, I think it was during that second semester of grade 12, I didn't even do the engineering interview because I was thinking, okay, at this point, I don't think I'm going to get into engineering regardless. I'm going to kind of just, like, I have the marks for some of the classes, but I dropped the other ones I needed at that point. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus fully on sport media. And yeah.
So you went all eggs in one basket, and if it didn't work out, you were in trouble?
I mean, like, I had, like, like, you get like 3 or 4 like applications to submit. I had
Yeah.
another one
Yeah.
for like, I think it was like a journalism course at Ryerson.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I
Yeah.
had like other backups in place. But those ones weren't as like heavy interview process or heavy application process. They're more just like you submit the application and like they tell you if you're in or not.
Yeah, okay. I applied to journalism as well. And I had a ton of backups, which if you want to have backups, that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say don't have backups because they can be helpful
Mhm.
if you don't
Yeah.
get into your program of choice.
Especially a
Let's-
program like sport media where the acceptance rate is so low. You want to have the backups. I think I had maybe 5 other backups because I did sport media and media production that I applied for. And then after that, I think I had like another 5.
Okay. Yeah, I had like 10. Because
Jeez, okay.
my mom wanted me to apply to as many programs as possible.
I know one kid in my high school had over 30. So
What?
yeah. Because no, his
That's
parents
just-
just wanted him to apply to like so many schools, and like he was very indecisive as well. Honestly,
Wow.
like I can't really speak for him on that, but yeah,
Yeah, 30 is a bit much.
it is a lot.
Because
Yeah.
considering it's like $50 after the
Mhm.
first 3 to
I think
apply,
it might have been even more than 30, to be honest. It was a lot.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I applied to like 15 total and didn't get into like 3 of them, which shocked me. But enough about us. Let's dive into Matt a little bit more. What has been your sort of favorite part of being at Ryerson?
I think it's 2 things in particular. I think like one thing is the Ryerson community. I think since like our program isn't like a necessarily large program, I think being able to work with other people and like kind of collaborate gives like good real life experience for the future when you need to work. And also the fact that Ryerson is so hands on with like our program. Like we have all the studio equipment, all the like lab equipment we can use. I think that really helps us like to really plan what we actually want to do in the future.
Yeah.
So what has been like a
And-
standout course, I guess, that you've really enjoyed so far?
Me personally, I really like the journalism course, especially since like coming into the program, like sport journalism was like something I wanted to go into.
Mm-hmm.
I think like doing that game story, like when we actually go to a game and then we have to like
Mhm.
ask the players questions afterwards, I think like that was a lot of fun because I was doing that. I was thinking, okay, I could see myself doing this in the future and like wanting to do this. And but I also think like doing the labs were stand out because I didn't think much about like multi-cam labs before I came to program. I wasn't thinking about something going into, but working in the studio and like kind of like working my hands on the studio was like I enjoyed it. So I could always the great thing about Ryerson is like I come in thinking one thing and then they kind of open other doors for me to think about.
Yeah, and that's something I've lived through, coming in wanting to sort of get into TV, and now I like radio and podcasting way more. I can't even stand TV at this point. Not saying I won't do TV in the future if you're an employer watching this, but yeah, it's Ryerson really does provide you, especially the sport media program, an opportunity to look at different areas in the industry and different chances that you can have, and the amount of different opportunities they give you outside of school, whether it be Spirit Live, whether it be the newspaper, the Eye Opener, whether it be doing Rams Live. All of that has been incredibly helpful in terms of developing us as media professionals. And I want to know a bit more about that with you. What has your experience been with sort of the extracurriculars at Ryerson?
I've done Rams Live and like I think twice I've done it, and like I've like done both times I've done the camera work for it. It gets kind of painful, kind of just when you're doing the cameras that to be
Did
at
you
the
have to do
corners, you're
the
kind of holding on your
handheld?
shoulder.
You have to do the handheld one? Yeah.
It's kind of painful, but I mean, it's kind of fun because you're right there in the game, like filming it. You're right in front of the whole action, and that's just kind of a lot of fun to do. I've also done Spirit Live, and I'm doing a show with Evan, like in a program, and we're doing a show called 5 Sports. And like we've done like that for past semester, and that's also been a lot of fun. And it's kind of giving me more experience, kind of talking on air, especially since before this program, I didn't think I'd ever do anything that was actually involved talking in front of like on camera or on the mic. So like it was a good experience for me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you guys are still doing that now, right? You're keeping it going
Yeah.
throughout the summer. So yeah, I think I watched your game 1 reaction video.
Yeah.
Evan kind of went in on them a little bit, but yeah,
Yeah.
we'll plug that in the description.
Yeah, and if you don't know who Evan is, we had him on the show.
Yes.
I think like second episode we did
Yeah, I think you're right.
guests. So now we've got both members of the 5-5 Sports come on. What has that experience been like in terms of doing the Spirit Live show for you?
For me, it's been like, well, like I said before, getting experience, like kind of like talking and like kind of like doing stuff that are on air, and like it's also like helps me kind of like organize and like schedule like the idea of like creating a show and like, creating a format of like, oh, we need to talk about this a certain day, and kind of help me be more organized with how we like structure a show.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
it's good experience. Which one of you board operated?
Oh, we neither of us actually. We have like me and Evan. We came from the same high school, and like
Okay.
we came to a program like together. And another of our friends in high school is actually me production right now, and
Okay.
she enjoyed operating the board, so we asked her to help us out with that, and she's technically part of the show as well as a
Oh,
board
that's
operator. She
sick.
doesn't ever want to talk during the show, but like we say we should, but she says that she's just fine with just operating the board.
That's
I
great.
think that needs to become a bit in the future where you constantly try to get her to talk
Sports, yeah.
and make her very uncomfortable because I think that might be very funny.
That would be fun.
That's interesting. So you have the experience doing Spirit Live. You have the experience doing Rams Live. Have you done anything outside of Ryerson, not affiliated with it, in terms of stuff in the industry?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, the podcast I'm doing right now isn't really associated with wrestling because it's going straight to YouTube instead of like because
Right.
obviously we don't have access
Yeah.
to the studio Spirit Live.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm actually, if anything, in high school, like some friends and I, we kind of started like a production company for like films, create kind of like short films and stuff like that. And like
Okay.
we've done that in high school, and we kind of like even after high school, we kept on continuing with a bit. And like we kind of it helped me with camera work and kind of like a single cam work that kind of helped me gain more experience with that. And that's been a lot of fun too. So that's like probably the biggest thing outside of Ryerson that I've done.
So is
Okay.
that
So,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Is
Aiden.
that something like you talk about like short films and stuff? Is that
Yeah.
something that you're still very passionate about, or something that maybe you could see yourself getting into one day in the future potentially?
Yeah, definitely. Ideally, actually, for me personally, I kind of, like I said, when I first came into program, was idea was to go into journalism. But one of the biggest things that I took away from Ryerson was the idea of going to feature making or sport documentary making, and like kind of I would like to use those skills I've like developed like in high school to kind of continue on in the future and kind of create stories in the format of documentaries. Like if you've seen this past summer, like The Last Dance, it was
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
great documentary, and like the filmmaking of it was incredible, and then the idea of being able to make something like that always appealed to me
So, what was that experience like for you then?
in terms of like filmmaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the great thing about it is like I've worked with people I was close to in high school, and just kind of like working together at the camaraderie of it. It's always fun. It's always like easy to enjoy, but it's also like you get to learn how to kind of make mistakes. You get to learn how to make mistakes and like develop skills in certain areas. Let's say you're directing. You need to learn the skills to direct people and to kind of work with people in that area.
So,
Yeah.
where can people find those short films?
We actually have a YouTube channel called Wildwood Productions.
Okay.
Okay.
So, we'll plug that in the description as well, probably, if we remember to do that, hopefully. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, apart from that, have you done any sort of like writing work or anything like that?
Not necessarily, no. Most stuff I've done was for Ryerson. I haven't really
Okay.
gotten a chance to like reach out to like outside Ryerson. I've been kind of looking into it, but like obviously with this whole like COVID and the shutdown, it was hard to like find opportunities for it.
I think
Still looking.
I think going back to like the short filmmaking, and like I can kind of relate to that because like I still have some friends from high school that we still make like short videos with and stuff. And I think the one takeaway for me at least is just that like it's just fun being able to create whatever you want. I guess it's essentially, and I guess Matt can relate to that
Yeah.
with you can really just come up with a random idea and make it into like a short film or like a 5-minute movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really cool how you're not just limiting to sports, but you're also just like going more into like the film side. And if you want to collab those at some point, then you might have an advantage over other people. So that's really
Yeah.
good that you're doing that.
All right. Well, we'll plug all of his stuff down in the description below. I think you should look into writing for Fansided because I think you'd really like that.
Philadelphia
I think,
Flyers fan sided, yeah.
yeah,
That's
they
I
dope.
might actually
do.
look into. I heard about it, and I think I'll actually. I'll look
Wait,
into
well,
that.
I remember we had a conversation during the year, like you were looking at applying for something in Philly, right?
Yeah,
Something like that.
I actually did my entire application for that. A week
Okay.
before it was the due date of submission, the job posting disappeared. I assume because of the whole COVID-19.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
That's unfortunate. That sucks.
So
Well,
I don't know
sorry
if
to
I would
hear
have gone
that.
there or not, but like
Yeah,
I guess I wouldn't know
bad
now. Like
bad timing, but maybe in the future, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you should go into Fansided. I know people have had stuff featured on Bleacher Report before. My latest article did,
Oh,
and
nice.
Oh,
you do
nice.
get paid
Congrats.
for it. Thank you. Even though it's like on a U.S. soccer section, but whatever.
Still
I
good.
think Rain has also had stuff featured on Bleacher Report. I'm sure there's other people in our program. I know Kyle and Eric both write for the Leaf section of it, and I think Daniel might do some stuff for them as well. So you have that sort of group you can talk to if you are interested in it. And that goes to anybody who might be watching this, whether you're a future student, a current student, a past student who just wants to get some writing experience. Apply to Fansided. They're always looking for writers. And recently they were taken over by Minute, I think it was Minute Media, something like that. So new opportunity there. There might be some changes within the company, but I'd recommend applying. I think you'd really enjoy it and you get a lot of good experience, and there aren't really very many restrictions on what you can write about. When you are in a site, if you're talking about the Flyers, all you have to do is write something about the Flyers, and it's really, really good experience. But with that, I think we'll take our little half-second break and then dive into everything else that is happening in the sports world because they're back and it feels
NHL's
so
back,
good to
baby.
see. All right, now let's dive into live sport because that's what's most important this week, this episode, even though we're not actually starting with live sport. We are starting instead with the Toronto Wolfpack situation. If you haven't been following what's happened, the Super League, which is the league that the Wolfpack are a part of, are restarting, but only in the UK. And right now, it isn't feasible financially for the Toronto Wolfpack to be able to do that. So they pulled out of the season. But what that means is that I can't remember the exact name of it, but an agreement that they signed with Super League in order to be allowed to play in the league and to take part in games was torn up. And that's a result of them pulling out because they need to honor the fact that they have to go to or honor all of the games. What that now means is David Argyle is going to have to sell the Wolfpack. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of the Wolfpack, David Argyle has basically pumped just a ton of money into them. I think he spent like $30 million into the rugby team, which is just nuts in rugby. And that's in the past like 4 years, if that. So he's going to have to sell the team. And that's big news for rugby league, and it's big news for Toronto. Right now, people in conversation about purchasing the Wolfpack are believed to be a U.S. bid, which they think is led by a guy named Ricky Wilby, who I think wants to get into the league. He wants to get into the Wolfpack, and I believe he wants to keep the team in Toronto. But there is another U.S. bid which might want to keep them there. It's a little confusing about who wants to actually keep the team in Toronto and who wants to pull them. The second bid that is currently there for the Wolfpack is from third-tier side Newcastle Thunderbirds. That ownership group wants to basically buy the Wolfpack so that they can get the license to move up or fast track their journey to the top league in Europe and top league in France and England and basically the top rugby league. And yes, it's confusing because it's rugby league, and it's the league. So right now, it's in a bit of a limbo. We don't know what's necessarily going to happen. Obviously, these two guys don't follow the Wolfpack. I barely do myself. But this is big news. I brought this up with them, but before we started recording, and an old teacher of mine used to play for the Wolfpack before they were the Wolfpack, and he was like their player manager or coach, and he knew the owner, which I believe is Argyle, and he didn't get involved, and I got a training session sort of with them. Like, he brought the coaches in to do like a little training session with our gym class, which was really cool. So I have a bit of a personal connection, which is why I actually bring up the Wolfpack, even though nobody really pays much attention to them. But they're a professional rugby league, and they're the first intercontinental league that our team in rugby, which I think is very notable because they're playing obviously in England and in Canada. But we don't really know what's going to happen. It's still very up in the air. We're unsure about whether or not this will even end up with the team staying in Toronto if Newcastle win this bid. But we will keep you updated. Hopefully there's news that comes out in the next few days. It's supposed to, because I believe this takeover has to happen pretty quickly because they've already filed for that same agreement to happen for the 2021 season so that they can play. But we don't really know. And I figured I'd bring that up because that's major news in rugby and in Toronto sports, even if neither of them know what I'm talking about. Now, let's talk about something that you actually know what we're talking about in the NFL, because it's been a couple updates around the opt-out and everything around that. And basically, simple as can be, the opt-out date is now apparently Thursday, which is, as we're recording this, tomorrow. There have been a ton of players who've opted out. I think CBS Sports has been keeping a full track for the MLB and the NFL. So we'll get into the MLB in a second. But in terms of the NFL, the biggest news is 8 Patriots have opted out.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. I think it's one other team who've had like 4, but that's it. Let me look at which team that is.
The Cleveland Browns have had
Cleveland
4.
Browns, yeah. So what do you guys sort of think of how many players have opted out?
I don't blame these guys because honestly, like, just look at baseball. Look at the example that's going on right now in the U.S. and teams that are trying to travel to different cities, and it's just not working out. So I think a lot of these NFL players realize that, it's not going to work unless they have some sort of bubble system. And I just think, like, the way the NFL is talking isn't very, like, realistic at all. Like, even not too long ago, and they still even might be considering having fans and like sign waivers and wear masks, and like that's just, it should be out of the question completely. I don't know why they'd even be considering that. So I don't really blame the players for doing this. Yeah, it's not too surprising. I'm surprised that some teams don't have any players who have opted out. Maybe, I don't know what's going on inside the room, but maybe the management's saying like, no, just trust us. If we keep everyone together, then hey, we have a better shot over these teams to win. So maybe just stick with us a little bit longer and things are going to get better. But yeah, like Connor mentioned, a team like the New England Patriots, where they just, I think it was their linebacker Hightower and Patrick Chung. They've both opted out, and those are 2 big pieces on their defense that Bill Belichick is going to miss so much. So
yeah, and I guess I'll mention before we let Matthew say his little thing, the teams who haven't had players opt out yet are the Buccaneers, the Chargers, the Falcons,
the
Rams, Steelers, and that's it. So 5 teams in the NFL haven't had players opt out. How does this affect both of your teams? Obviously, Matt is a Ravens fan, and Aiden is a Lions fan. There we go.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I just fully.
I know they're both. I know they're both bad teams, but it's not even funny anymore. That's embarrassing.
Well, the Browns are a little bit better than the Lions, but okay.
Okay.
I mean, like as a Ravens fan, like we have like two players who opted out, and I mean, I think for Ravens, like none of our like main players have opted out yet. Like Lamar Jackson is like he's still like, saying on social media he's excited to have another chance at the playoffs, have another chance of the season. So I don't see him opting out anytime soon. Of course, I don't blame him if he eventually does, because right now the NFL plan doesn't really seem like they even have that much of a plan that will actually work. Like you guys said, and like again, we can't blame these players for wanting to opt out. I think it will affect a young team like the Ravens pretty negatively. When it's like each season as a young team counts because you kind of each season is a chance for you to develop more. But again, it'll be kind of devastating as a fan to not see the Ravens play. But at the same time, I can't blame them for not wanting to play because again, it's not a good plan that they have. Like look at the MLB. So when you travel, accidents are about to happen, cases are about to come up. So like, yeah, you can't blame anyone for how this is happening.
Yeah. And like for the Lions, I think they have John Atkins, who's a defensive tackle, who's mostly a bench guy. He's not gonna really have a big starting role. But I guess the bigger name is Geronimo Allison, who would probably be the Lions' fourth or fifth wide receiver. So they have quite a bit of depth at wide receiver right now. So it's not like a big loss, but it is a guy who they just signed as a free agent who they expected to come in and make an impact for them. And he was obviously a former Green Bay Packer, and he has experience playing within the division, and he has playoff experience. So, it is going to be a little bit of that the Lions are going to miss him. But luckily, there hasn't been like any big name player on the Lions opt out yet. So, yeah.
All right, and Matt, how much of a loss are Andre Smith, who's an offensive tackle, and DeAnthony Thomas for the Ravens?
I mean, of course, any player you lose is like a loss to team collectively, but like they aren't the biggest losses a team can have. I mean, Danny Thomas isn't one of our number one receivers, and to be fair, Lamar Jackson, like he doesn't really need that many wide receivers to play the way he does. But I honestly think like, yeah, they're not that big losses, and I think that's why like if the season does continue, Ravens are still kind of like one of those teams I think they can kind of keep going forward. And I think that's one of the reasons why, not just for Ravens, but the NFL is planning to continue as a whole, because none of their marketable players have really opted out. I think probably the biggest name to opt out was probably Patriots, Dante Hightower.
Yeah.
It's probably the biggest name to drop out. And I think until bigger names drop out, the NFL plans continue. And then like, teams like Ravens, they'll keep on playing the way they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there have been a couple big opt-outs. We mentioned Laurent Duvernay-Tardif last week, who is the Chiefs' offensive guard. I believe the Jets lost someone pretty big. Just trying to find them now. Yeah, C.J. Mosley. I actually recognize his name, so it means he has to be decent.
Former Raven.
Yeah, former Raven.
Yeah, Devin Funches. I recognize that name, so he has to be okay.
Marquise Goodwin on the Eagles, Alan Hearns on the Dolphins, Damian Williams on the Chiefs, which is a really big one. He was, I believe, wasn't he the MVP last year, Super Bowl MVP?
No, it was Mahomes.
Oh, was it Mahomes? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an obvious one. But Williams did have a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the issue, though, is that none of these players, they are big names, but, like, they aren't big enough to make the NFL think, okay, if these guys aren't playing, like, it's going to affect our, like, viewership and our ratings and, like, the amount of money the NFL makes. I think once players like Mahomes or, like, Lamar, let's say they start opting out, that'll be kind of like a wake-up call for the league.
Definitely.
Yeah. I find it hard to believe that they'll throw away the money they're making, especially Mahomes, after he signed that contract.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see this going well in the same way I didn't see the MLB going well, which we will probably, let's talk about it now, because I think we could do it pretty quickly before the call ends, even because we only have like 8 minutes left in it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't been paying attention to the MLB, I wouldn't blame you at all, because it's a tire fire.
Yeah.
13 Phillies tested positive for the coronavirus, 7 players, 6 staff members. That's the second outbreak that has happened in the MLB. The first one obviously being the Miami Marlins, who had like over 20 cases. What do you guys think about this whole situation, and when do they pull the plug?
To be honest, I'm actually surprised that they haven't done it yet. I thought as soon as the Marlins thing happened, they would pull the plug, and then it looked like the Cardinals got a bunch of players that tested positive, and now Philadelphia and the Jays had to cancel their series with them over the weekend. And it's just even if it's just one team that gets it, it's like a ripple effect. It affects more than just that one team. So I think maybe give it. I know Rob Manfred has said, like, he's like warned the MLBPA, saying like, yeah, if you guys aren't being like more safe with it, then I don't think he actually said like, okay, we're going to cancel the season, but he's just warning them right now.
I
Like,
also
I think
definitely said, sorry to cut you off, but I definitely said the wrong team. It's the Arizona Cardinals. And I don't know why
St.
I
Louis.
said, or St. Louis Cardinals. Why are there so many Cardinal teams? I don't know why I said Phillies. I guess because they canceled their games. It's the Cardinals who had all the cases, I believe.
The Phillies, well, no, the Phillies, I don't know if they had, they probably do have some cases, but no, the Phillies were the team that played against the Marlins. And I had that big rant on last week because they like let the Marlins play, even though they knew that they had guys that had tested positive, which is just so stupid. So,
yeah, it's the
I
St.
forget what
Louis
I was saying.
Cardinals.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's good.
I said the wrong team.
You
You forgot where you are. So
yeah, no, I think like Manfred is like, I know the MLB wants to get this season, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, I don't even think they should postpone it. I think they should just cancel it fully now. Like, it's so early into the season. Like, you don't need to resume play at some point. Just end it while you can, I guess, before it gets worse.
What are your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, I agree with you guys completely on this. Like, I think what the MLB doing is actually very arrogant, thinking that their plan will somehow not create any cases. Like, I don't understand why they didn't just do what NBA or NHL are doing in terms of like creating a bubble and like kind of shutting out the outside world from the players. And that, like, look at the NHL NBA, there have been no positive cases since, and like it's worked like perfectly. If you let these players travel, let them like interact, like it's bound to happen. They're bound to track COVID-19. And yeah, like you guys said, I'm surprised that they haven't canceled it yet. I think they might soon. Honestly, I think by the end of this podcast, like, they might get news that the MLB is canceled. So I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Wouldn't surprise me either.
I think
Especially
if there's like two more teams that get it, I think it's done.
Probably. And obviously with the news of Eduardo Rodriguez having to pull out due to an inflamed heart following his battle with COVID, it's obviously not looking very good for the Red Sox or MLB, if you're asking me.
Yeah.
I said it 2 weeks ago, I don't think it'll last 2 weeks, and I'm shocked it has gotten this far. But who knows? As Matt said, by the end of this episode, they may have pulled the plug, especially if there are more cases. And it's just not looking like there's any hope for the MLB at all at this point. Do you guys have anything to add before we take a little break again and dive into the NBA?
Jays got smacked last night, 10-1.
Yeah.
I think,
let's
like I said,
that because it's sad.
Hey, if the season cancels, that won't matter.
That's true. Exactly. But no, I was going to say, like, it is like a ripple effect because the Jays had the weekend off, and normally players don't get 2 days off during the regular season. So I would say that's probably a big reason as to why they got slapped the way they did yesterday. So that's not good. You don't want to have teams that don't have any coronavirus cases get affected by this. And they are. Or at least it seems like it is, because I don't think the Jays are that bad to lose 10-1. So, yeah.
Yeah, especially after they lost their best pitcher, Mike Soroka, who's a Canadian, after he did his Achilles in.
Yeah, that's unfortunate as well. Yeah, he's done for the year.
Yeah, so MLB is not in a good place right now. We'll see what happens and whether or not they can get things under control, but I'm not exactly hopeful. Apologies for derailing the conversation because I completely put the wrong team in, and I don't know why I did that, but I'll be better for the NBA. So after this little break, let's hit the NBA. All right, now let's get into the NBA because they've finally returned to games after their hiatus following Rudy Gobert's positive test and then Donovan Mitchell testing positive and a bunch of other players getting the virus. But let's just sort of dive into the games because we actually get to talk about games, and that is very exciting. I guess we start off with their first one against the Lakers. Wow, that team, Toronto was very good. I was very impressed with that game. I don't know what you guys sort of thought about that entire game. I said game a lot.
No, it's a good start for them. I think we mentioned last week it's a tough way to start the resumption of the season against the Lakers, but geez, like these guys can play against anyone, honestly. And I think, the Lakers, and then I think they got the Bucks on Monday. So that's also going to be a big challenge. But no, they look very good against the Lakers. And I think they won by quite a bit too. So it wasn't really close.
Yeah, I think like the Raptors, they've proven that like as a team, they're more than like when they won last year, they were more than just Kawhi. And I think this year they're really showing that. Like in the Lakers game, Lowry really stepped up. He had an incredible game. And I think OG Nobi was the probably biggest surprise. And I think this whole season, I think, though not to the same extent, OG has been kind of like filling in that role we've been missing with Kawhi. And like OG had in this past game, he was able to like stop LeBron. And then, I mean, let's be honest, that's no easy task.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been very impressive. He's someone I'm very high on. I think he can be an insane, like one of the best in the league 3-and-D players. And he proved it against the Lakers. He shut down LeBron very, very well. And he has filled some of that gap between Kawhi leaving and what the Toronto Raptors had. But they've really done a very good job of creating an environment and creating a structure where they can rely on each other really well. And as much as we hate it when we're playing Columbus, they're a very good defensive team. And that's very frustrating to teams that play us. Do you guys have any sort of thoughts on Lowry and how he's done since the refresh? I know he's like leading the league in charges already, or charges drawn.
Yeah.
And like, do you have any sort of thoughts on Lowry, how Siakam's been playing, anything like that?
I think he's kind of just left off where he finished the regular season. Like I think, coming into the year, Kawhi gone, Lowry knows that like, okay, this is his team now. And if the Raptors want to have any chance to repeat, he's got to be the leader to step up. So I think, that's what we've seen like so far. And I think he's also just a mentor to these young guys. And that's why guys like Van Fleet and Powell have had very good seasons, and that's why Fred obviously had that big game against Miami as well. I think the young guys kind of feed off the energy that Kyle brings. So I think, that's why he's such an important part to this team. And like Matt said, it wasn't just Kawhi. It's the other guys that were a part of that team, the veterans that are still leading the way, I guess.
Yeah, and just like how Lowry stepped up as a leader, I think Siakam has like this whole season, Siakam has stepped up as like he knows that he is the future of the team. Like he is like easily like one of the most talented players on the team right now, and then in the future, the team will be built around him. He is going to be a number one guy, and I think he's proven that this season.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Apologies if you can hear my dog barking in the background, but it's just constantly yipping and it's very annoying. But yeah, I think the Raptors have been very impressive this season.
I think also just Nick Nurse. Like
Yeah.
if they didn't have him, like they're a different team. Like this guy is like, and like you hear it from other teams as well. Like they're so versatile and like deceptive with the game plans that they play. It's like they have a different game plan for every single team, or like a different defense that they play for every single team. It reminds me a lot of like even the Patriots, and when they had Matt Patricia as their defensive coordinator, like they would plan specifically differently for every single game, depending on like matchup and stuff. I think that's what the Raptors are doing a lot of, and they're able to like switch up their defenses during the game as well. So it just provides so much of a challenge for other teams. And if we didn't have Nick Nurse, like, we're a different team. And
He is
we're just lucky to have him.
he is an incredibly good coach.
Yeah.
And the fact that he didn't win Coach of the Year from the other coaches is just a complete joke. I don't know how he didn't win that award. I'm sure he'll win it when the media pick their winner in the actual final.
Was that last year, though?
No, this was this year.
Oh, really? That's already come out?
So the way that they do a coaches version where the coaches pick their coach of the year.
Yeah.
And this year they had two guys tie. I think it
Okay.
was Budenholzer and I want to say the OKC coach, who I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Because obviously OKC were expected to be terrible and they were at least
True.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think it was those two, and I think Nick Nurse finished third, and it was one vote off of being a three-way tie. So I think he should have won that award because he's had an insane season. Obviously, Siakam, as you mentioned, Matt, has stepped up incredibly well. He's really filled that void too. I want to get your thoughts on the Miami Heat game because that was a very impressive win for me. Obviously, Miami are a good team and they were fully healthy, which is notable. So what did you sort of think of that entire game? And after you sort of dive into that, what do you think of Skinny Mark?
I'll go, Matt. I didn't watch the game, so I can't really speak on the Miami
Okay.
one. All I know is that Fred had an insane game. I don't know if Matt watched it.
I watched the game, but also like the main thing I was focusing on for me though was like also Van Vliet and like seeing like he had like a career high game, and I also think the only concern like of that game was we had the lead, Miami almost caught up, and then like our defense again pulled through like usual, but like I think kind of making sure that we don't risk like allowing them to catch up like that is probably the biggest concern going forward.
Do you think that's a valuable experience, having to play in that sort of situation, having a team come back against you, I guess?
Oh, definitely. Especially now, like during this stretch of time where you're not in playoffs yet, you want to get as much experience as you can in a short amount of time. So I think that's very valuable. And the Raptors, like, they were able to secure the dub. Like, even though they did give up a lead, it's good that they were able to sustain it. And knowing that, because I guess, in the playoffs, especially, like, you're going to be faced with those situations where there will be a momentum swing and teams will come back against you. And are you able to hold it off? That's going to be the question. So good for the Raptors for doing that in this game.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And then final little basketball thing we'll talk about is tonight's game. They're playing the Orlando Magic. Hopefully this podcast comes out before the game, but if it doesn't, you can see how wrong or right our predictions were. Obviously, Orlando are going to be without Jonathan Isaac after he, I believe, tore his meniscus. Or was it ACL? I think it was meniscus.
I'm not sure.
One of the two. He had a knee injury, which has ruled him out for the rest of the tournament. And that's a big blow to Orlando because he's been a key part of that team. But what do you think the Raptors are going to do tonight? Do you think that it's going to be an easy win? They were kind of challenged us in the first game of the playoffs last year. But after that, we sort of massacred them. So do you think that Orlando will get that step up again? And how do you think that Marc Gasol, Skinny, and Serge Ibaka are going to match up against Nikola Vucevic?
I mean, I would expect the Raptors to win this one. Like, they come off two big wins against the Lakers and Heat, and obviously, Orlando is a worse team than both of them. Do I think that there could be a scare? Honestly, no. I think the Raptors are just, they're kind of unbeatable right now, to be honest. And I don't really see them losing these weaker games unless, like, the only way I see them losing is if they rest some guys. Like if Lowry doesn't play big minutes, Siakam doesn't play big minutes, they rest them a little bit, and Orlando like sneaks away with the win. And like at this point as well, like chances are you're not going to catch Milwaukee for the number one spot. So maybe Nick Nurse is thinking about, resting guys. But as for Gasol, I think he's looked really good so far, and same with Ibaka. And it's definitely a different look seeing him trimmed down, I guess, skinny. But no, hopefully it allows him to play better and not get tired, I guess. He's more conditioned, obviously. And yeah, I think they'll match up well tonight. I think they should take the win.
You mentioned that you don't think they could catch the Bucks. I wouldn't rule that out. The Bucks are 0-2 so far. They lost to the Rockets, and then they lost to the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. And also the Raptors do play the Bucks on Monday. So like if they win that game, never know. You never know.
Honestly, in playoffs, if Raptors and Bucks face off, like I wouldn't count out the Raptors. Obviously, Bucks are our favorite because they have Giannis, but like the way Raptors been playing, you can't ever like bet against them.
No, never.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it's pretty unlikely considering we're 5 games back. So the Bucks would have to lose every single game, and we'd have to win every single game that we have left. Or I guess they could win one, and we'd have to still win all of our games. But who knows?
Do the Bucks have to play the Lakers at some point?
I'd assume so. Let me look.
Yeah, because they could lose that one.
They don't. Oh my God, they got such an easy schedule.
Oh, there you go then.
They got the Heat tomorrow. They got the Mavericks on Saturday. Raptors on Monday. Wizards on Tuesday.
Wait, when did they play the Mavericks?
Monday? Saturday.
Okay. I was gonna say if it's a back-to-back, then it works even better for the Raptors on Monday.
Fortunately, it's not. But they have the Wizards and Grizzlies to finish off the season. Right. So I don't think we're going to catch them. Yeah. But we could get mighty close and potentially going in with a ton of momentum. That could be huge for the Raptors. Is there anything else you want to hit NBA-wise?
I'm good.
All right. So before we move on to the NHL, give me your score predictions for tonight. And we'll see how right or wrong you
are. 95-90 Raptors.
That is close and very low scoring.
Yeah.
I have as like 110-95 Raptors.
Wow. It's like almost exactly what I was going to say. So I guess I have to change mine up a little bit. I'll go 120-95.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a Raptors massacre. Now that we've said that, the Orlando Magic are going to beat us in just the tiniest little margin, like a point, because we jinxed it, and you're welcome, Raptors fans. All right, let's move on to the NHL because there's a lot to unpack there. I guess we will start with – let's start with the situation – around Tyler Seguin, Robin Leonard, Dickinson. I believe his first name's Jason Dickinson. I knew it was a J. And Ryan Reeves. They're the first players, apart from Matt Dumba, who kneeled before the Edmonton-Chicago first game after he did that amazing speech. They're the first people to kneel for the anthem. Notable because, obviously, they're the only ones who have knelt for the anthem, and some teams have already played 3 games. What do you guys think of NHL players not kneeling for the anthem or joining in on a protest? I know Matt Dumba raised a fist, I believe, yesterday again, and I think it was Jonas Brodin put his hand on him the entire time on his shoulder. So there's a little bit of support there. What do you sort of think of this entire situation in the NHL right
now? Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that the guys should be kneeling, but I don't know what's going through the players' minds. I can't really speak for them, but I know all the players have good intentions. Like I know they want to support the Black Lives Matter movement and stuff, but I think they should be kneeling. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't, especially if your peers are doing it, and guys like Seguin and Dickinson have stepped up, like guys that aren't even on the Vegas Golden Knights stepped up and supported Ryan Reeves, and even Nick Nurse and Malcolm Subban when Dumba took a knee. I was surprised that they didn't take a knee with him. Like, you're right beside him. Like, why just put your hand on his shoulder? Why not just kneel? So I don't know. I don't think the NHL is taking it too seriously as well. Like, I know they've put hashtag We Skate for Black Lives, but like, even when, I don't know if you guys saw the Leafs opening game, I think they did like a whole ceremony. They showed like a video about Black Lives Matter and stuff. And then they have a bunch of hashtags, right? It's like hashtag We Skate for something. We skate for the fans. We skate for the Stanley Cup. And then when they showed hashtag We Skate for Black Lives on the screen, they didn't say hashtag We Skate for Black Lives. They said like hashtag We Skate for something better or something. They didn't ever say Black Lives, which is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And they should be doing a better job with it. And it is disappointing to see players not taking a knee, but it is good to see a guy like Matt Dumba really stepping up, and that speech was amazing, like Connor said. So I just want them to be doing more, and yeah.
And I'm sure like all these players, even the ones who aren't kneeling, I'm sure they support the movement of Black Lives Matter. I think the issue is that there's the culture of the NHL. Like the NHL has never been the best at promoting or talking about social issues and like trying to like fix those social issues.
Yeah.
Also, the NHL is not the most like diverse league of all sports. So I think like just the culture that's built around the idea of hockey in the NHL has kind of like stopped players from doing that, which is wrong. They should. But the fact that players like Sagan, Reeves, Leonard, and Dickinson are doing it should be a wake-up call to them that it doesn't matter what the culture of hockey says. It's like if it's something right, you should kneel and stand for that.
Yeah. It's been very disappointing, the lack of action that I've seen in the NHL. Even if it's, putting your arm on, or you're putting your hand on the teammate in front of your shoulder, or raising a fist, or even taking a knee. Like, it is ultimately your decision, but I would have liked there to be more public acknowledgement of it. One thing I did want to bring up is Robin Lehner. I don't know if you guys remember this, but back in 2016, he was a pretty major Trump supporter. He had like Trump stuff on things like that in the back of his helmet and stickers, and he was pretty vocal about it. And now he's taken a knee, and it's shown a lot of personal growth. And I think we should bring that up because you can grow and you can change as a person. Even if you didn't believe this 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, you can still change. And I think Robin Lehner has proved that. He showed personal growth in taking that knee, and he acknowledged that he's grown as a person after the game, and that was probably a mistake what he did when he was supporting Trump. I don't want to get too political on here, but I think it's good to see that there are certain players taking action, and there needs to be more of it. I tweeted it out as well, talking about just the fact that it's great that these 4 players did this, but there needs to be more. And whether that be other players taking a knee or raising a fist or doing something, it can't just be 5 people. It can't just be Dumba, Reeves, Leonard, Sagan, and Dickinson. It can't just be those guys. There's got to be more. And especially when you're considering that there are hundreds of people in these bubbles, it's frankly embarrassing that it took so long for players to take a knee. And saying that, I want to commend Sagan, Dickinson, Leonard, and Reeves for actually taking that action, for actually doing something, because that definitely wouldn't have been easy, especially in a sport like hockey, which, as Matt brought up earlier, isn't the most diverse in the world. It doesn't have the most diverse fan base in the world, which is something that the NHL also needs to address, and hockey in general needs to address. But I think it's positive that we're starting to see a little bit. it started with the Dumba speech, and and then his kneeling, which again, utmost respect to him. I appreciate the fact that Malcolm Subban and Darnell Nurse went up and put their hands on his shoulder while he was doing that. But I think that there should be more action in terms of showing your support for the movement. Now let's move on to something a little less sad and a little bit less depressing, a little bit something happier, and that is Steve Simmons. I never thought I'd bring up his name in terms of something being happy, but Austin Matthews just completely dunked on him. If you missed that, he basically was asked a question after the first Columbus game, I believe, and Austin Matthews responded saying it's unfortunate that he's being asked a question by him, and he didn't appreciate his story about Matthews having coronavirus and found it unethical. So there's that. That then turned into James.
And he answered his question too.
And then he answered his question.
What a guy!
Such a legend.
That's amazing.
Uh-huh.
I can't believe he answered it. I was expecting him to just not just be like, "Okay, next question. I'm not answering your question," or maybe just give like a really like bland answer. Like I think the question was something about the Columbus defense, I think, or something like that, like their game plan, or was there anything about Columbus that surprised? Something. I thought he was just gonna say like yeah, or something like that, but he answered it in pretty good detail. So shout out to Matthews.
Yeah, he's great. And then Simmons did Simmons after Myrtle tweeted out the reaction that Matthews had, and Myrtle responded to the tweet, or retweeted his tweet with a response saying, because Simmons accused him of not going to training camp because he did a radio hit where he said Matthews was the best player at training camp. And then Myrtle tweeted a picture of him at training camp, and basically it just blew up Leafs Twitter on Sunday night. So that was a good escape after that dreadful, dreadful game. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that game, because if you survived it, applause, because that was one of the most boring things I've ever watched.
Check out my game one reaction on Unlimited. Yeah. It's yeah. Yeah, check it out.
All right. Well, if you want to see his reaction, go to the Unlimited podcast, which I'm sure he'll link down below. I'd assume you do link that, correct?
No, I don't. Just check at Unlimited Pod on Instagram.
Okay. Well, all right. Yeah.
Or maybe I will link it now down below.
I was gonna say we should start linking our stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Like whatever. It's just I just fully pull us off the train rails so often. This is not very good at all. Let's hit Philly, Boston very quickly. We'll talk about the second Leafs game after the break, as well as the Kachuk situation. We'll probably get the Ferland thing in really quickly, and maybe New York. Who knows? We're just flying by the seat of our pants at this point, or at least I am. Let's talk Ferland. Speared the bench of the Minnesota Wild because they grabbed his stick, and he was then fined $5,000. So that was something. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that situation.
I mean, in the playoffs, this hasn't been the only dirty play or questionable play we've seen in the playoffs. I think what he did was definitely wrong, and I think yeah, I don't know. I just think he definitely should have been fined. Honestly, an argument could have been made for his suspension as well. But with that being said, how many players should be suspended that haven't been so far? I mean, we're going to talk about the Matthew Choi situation later on. So,
yeah, I think with the Ferland situation, it's a little different because they did grab his stick and he was trying to pull it out, and then got mad and jabbed it into somebody's stomach. But I think the fine was fair. Aiden, you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I don't think it's it's a borderline suspension, I would say, just because he obviously didn't have to do it. And yeah, I know they grabbed a stick, and like, you can't do that. First of all, you can't grab the person's stick. Like, I know it's playoff hockey and you're trying to get in the heads of guys, but that, I don't think there's a penalty for that. But like, come on, you're not in house league hockey anymore. That's just, no, don't do that.
Like, there's no reason why you should be doing that.
Yeah,
the first
exactly.
place.
And also, like, there's no excuse for Ferland to stab back at him. Luckily, no one got hurt as well. I think if someone did, there would definitely be a suspension, and Ferland would be in a lot more trouble. I think 5,000 is about right.
Yes, this was after he got in a fight earlier in the game and had, with his concussion issues, that's a little worrisome. But we'll move on from that. It's his decision what he does. Rangers are the first team eliminated after losing to the Carolina Hurricanes last night. James Reimer played very, very well.
James Reimer and Jake Gardiner finally win a playoff series.
Yep. Jake Gardiner hit somebody in the face, so that was fun. Yeah, I don't know. Carolina just won that series. I know Igor Shesterkin played last night, which I think is notable. So what were you going to say? Sorry?
Henrik Lundqvist, that might have been his last chance, really. I don't know if the era is over now.
Maybe.
Because I think Shesterkin will start next year.
Honestly, as a Rangers fan, though, like, I would honestly think this was probably the best situation because realistically, I wouldn't have picked Rangers to go far in the playoffs, even if they beat Hurricanes.
True, yeah.
They now get a chance at Lafreniere, and like imagine a team with Lafreniere, Kakko, and Panarin and Zibanejad. That's a very solid team, or not a solid team. That's a great team. You have there on offense. So like I honestly, if I were a Rangers fan, I wouldn't be upset that we lost to Carolina. I'd also see that more as an opportunity if anything.
And like that was expected too.
Yeah,
like they weren't supposed to win that series.
Yeah, and as you just mentioned, Matthew, they have a 12.5% chance at getting Lafreniere after last season picking up Kakko. So they have a very promising future. Quickly, let's do the Philly-Boston game because obviously Matt is a Philadelphia Flyers fan, as we mentioned earlier. I want to get your thoughts on that game. What do you sort of think of it?
I was very impressed by Philly's performance. Like, Boston's the number one seed. I think most people would always have picked Boston. And funny enough, like going before the shutdown delayed, the last game Philly played was against Boston, and Boston won that game, and that broke Philly's 9-game win streak. And coming back, I was actually worried about the Flyers because we were on a hot streak before. It was a good chance that it would end coming back from the break, but I think Alain Vigneault, this whole season, Alain Vigneault shows he knows how to utilize Flyers' depth. We saw him, like, the players who scored was Nate Thompson, Mike Raffle, and, I mean, when we had Dave Haxtell as a coach last year, and, like, Dave Haxtell, we've seen him, he's a coach for Leafs now, and, like, he has not been doing a great job, especially on penalty kill, who's, like, one of the worst in the league.
Okay. The penalty kill's been okay.
Past few games have been good, but throughout the season, it wasn't great. And Flyers' penalty kill was, like, at the bomb last season. So I think, like, Vigneault has really made that difference. Our defense looks deep. With the addition of Niskanen in the offseason has proven that. And I think I was impressed because we shut down players like Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak, which, again, isn't easy. It's, like, called a perfection line, and they haven't gotten a goal on us. And I was really happy with that. And I think who impressed me most was Carter Hart, young goalie. I think the concern was, would he be ready for playoffs because he's so young? And he looked like a veteran out there.
Yeah, he was impressive. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What did you guys think of Boston? Because they have not done very well since the restart.
I mean, they only played against Philly and then the one exhibition game. They haven't really done much. And they're playing against Tampa today, I think, at 4.
I have no idea.
There's still a lot to be seen with Boston, but I mean, it could have just been that Philly played a good game.
And also, they had Halak, right, in net? Yeah. Against Philly. So we didn't see Tuukka Rask. I know Halak is still a very good goalie, but Rask is a lot better.
He's the number one guy.
Yeah. I think it just takes, a while to get back into the swing of things for these teams. I think Boston is I think Philly just played a really good game, to be honest. You got to give credit where credit is due. So shout out to them. I think for these 4 teams, or these 8 teams, I guess, that are playing the round robin, they might struggle when it comes to the first round, just because they are getting more days off in between games and they're playing less games. So, those teams that are fighting for their playoff lives right now might have that advantage when it comes to round 1. So I would be a little bit scared in that way.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, final question before we move on to the Matthew Tkachuk situation, which will happen after a little break. Do you consider the Boston Bruins and the Philadelphia Flyers to still be Stanley Cup favorites?
I didn't think the Flyers would be Stanley Cup favorites.
Okay, well, would you consider them now then, I guess? I should have reworded that a little bit better.
God, I don't want to say that. I'm not a big Flyers supporter. I think they're dangerous, though. I think I wouldn't say they're favorites, but they're contenders. I would still say Boston is the favorite to win. And like a team in the West, St. Louis, they could repeat. Even a team like Tampa, don't underestimate them. But yeah, Philly's right up there.
I'm never gonna say I think Philly's going to win Cup because I just don't want to jinx it. And I would say Boston's always, you're never gonna bet against Boston as an immediate out. So I would say Boston is still a favorite. I hope Philly's goes far. I'm really hoping on that, but again, I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get your little Stanley Cup predictions after the break. All right. Now, let's dive into Leafs. I guess we can, or let's start with Furland, then we'll do Leafs. Not Furland, wrong suspension. Maybe. Tkachuk. Let's dive into Tkachuk and that whole situation. If you didn't see it and are living under a rock or are not paying attention to the NHL at all, basically Matthew Tkachuk hit Mark Scheifele, and when he hit him, okay, was it it was Scheifele, yeah?
No, you're right, but like,
oh, you're not
like
sure.
he did hit him, but like, okay, he did hit him. He did hit him. Yes.
We'll get your opinions in a second. Hit Mark Scheifele because I guess it technically counted as a hit, and on the follow through, his skate sort of bounced up off the ice and then hit the back of Scheifele's leg, really low by the Achilles, and Scheifele went down in a lot of pain and needed help off the ice. And he didn't play in their latest game where the Jets did end up winning, beating the Flames after the Flames won game 1. So the series is now tied.
No, it's 2-1 now. They played last night as well. 2-1 Calgary.
They played last night as well? Oh.
Yeah. Calgary won 6-2, I think, yesterday. So it's 2-1
I didn't even know that happened. Well then, I need to pay more attention.
Sports are back, Connor.
Yeah, I know. It's like insane now. It's just nonstop. Sports from literally like noon to 1 a.m.
Yeah.
It's insane. And I got to watch 2 games at once tonight, which is going to be fun. But let's move on from that because, again, I sidetracked us. I really need to get better at that. Let's talk that situation. Did you think that it was intentional?
No, I don't think it was. Like, it's like I think the only reason why people are saying that is just because it's Tkachuk. Like, if it was, I don't know, Zach Aston Reese on the Penguins did that. Like, nobody's talking about he did that on purpose. Nobody's talking about this guy should be suspended or anything. Like, and I think like Ryan Whitney said it best on Spit and Chicklets. Like, he said, like, you guys don't know how fast these plays are and how things happen so quickly. Like, it's literally impossible to even do that, he was saying. Like, things happen so fast. Like, how can you even do that? So, no, I don't think he meant to do that on purpose. I know Tkachuk is a physical player. I wouldn't say he's, like, too dirty. I know he's feisty and he wants to get in fights and be physical. He's a rat, but he's not dirty. He's not like Matt Cook. I don't think he's that vicious, and I don't think he would ever try and do that to a guy like Mark Scheifele. So, no, I don't think it was intentional at all.
He's a Brad Marchand instead
Yeah.
of Rafi Torres or Matt
Yeah,
Cook.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, Matt, sorry to cut you off, but what do you think?
I would say like yeah, the argument for it being an accident is definitely valid. It's definitely fair. The only thing I would argue is that you said people are only saying that it was intentional because it's a Chuck. But I'll also say that argument is warranted though because it's a Chuck. Because again, like you said, he's not necessarily a dirty player, but he is a player that's capable of. I wouldn't say he tried to injure Sheffield to that extent, but he kind of went after him to try to knock him down, to kind of like knowing that would be a kind of a hard hit on him. And like I wouldn't say he tried to like tear his like back of his leg with a skate intentionally. Like I wouldn't say, well, like you said, like it's you can't really do that intentionally. It's not an easy thing to do intentionally. But I do think that Chuck had some intent to cause harm to Sheffield because it's playoff hockey. And again, because Chuck's history, we know he's a player capable of wanting to do something like that.
I gotta watch this thing again.
All right. So while he watches it, I don't think it was intentional. I don't think Kachuk meant to do it at all. I know Paul Maurice has obviously pushed the it was intentional argument pretty hard in the media, which has taken a lot of the pressure off of his players to sort of react to it. Blake Wheeler did fight Kachuk in that game, which he lost, which that's kind of unfortunate because I think that's one that he probably really wants to win. But yeah, I don't think it was intentional. I think it was just a complete fluke. Just happened to be Kachuk. I understand why Maurice is accusing it of being on purpose because it's sort of a good way to rally his troops and get the guys going a little bit, especially with them now on the brink of elimination. But Aiden, has your opinion changed at all after watching the replays?
I mean, like, okay, so obviously, like, his left foot is planted on the ice and it doesn't move, and he's trying to stop. Like, they're going to the boards. He's trying to slow down. I don't see why he even had to lift up his right skate at all to do that. Like, if you guys watch it, like, he's going into the boards. He's off balance. One foot's in the air. The right foot is in the air. His left foot is planted. And it's up, and then he puts it back down, the right foot. And then at the last second, he lifts it back up for some reason as he's trying to stop.
I don't think he lifted it. I think it bounced off the ice.
Yeah.
It's sort of what I got from
that's
like
tough to
players'
say.
reactions.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I still don't think he did it on purpose.
So you don't think he should get suspended? He should have been suspended for it.
No, and like also, like if you look at Kachuk's like head, it's not looking down; it's looking up. So it's not like I guess he could assume that his leg is there, but it's just so hard. I just see so many like negatives as to like why it like why people think it's a dirty hit. Like I just don't see it.
I don't think Chuck should be suspended, to be honest. Like
I don't think he is going to be suspended.
yeah, and I don't think
He did.
yeah, exactly. I don't think and plus he shouldn't be. But at the same time, like Chuck knows the type of player he is. I think he knew that whatever he was going to do could cause an injury, and like again, I don't think he intentionally meant for Sheffield to get injured, and he was like apologetic afterwards. He wasn't like trying to like make excuses about it. But again, him knowing the player he is, I think he definitely knew that what he was about to do could cause something like that.
And like shout out to him for fighting Blake Wheeler after, like out of respect, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He follows the code. I think is a good way of putting it. You know, he's not someone who's intentionally trying to injure somebody, and I'm sure he felt bad after Shifley had to go off. But again, he is the kind of guy who pushes the limit a little bit. That's going to happen when you push the limit. Is there anything you guys want to add to this Kachuk situation before we talk about the Leafs game 2 and then predictions for tomorrow night and Friday night?
No, I'm good. Let's go Leafs.
All right, let's hit Leafs. Leafs played last night against the Columbus Blue Jackets, where they won 3-0 after an empty net goal. It really was 2-0, but Riley sniped one from his own end. to make it 3. But what did you guys think of that game? We'll hit the Muzzin situation later, so we won't dive into that. But what did you think about the Leafs game overall?
Yeah, they played so well. I think they played a complete game. They were dominating shots, possession, everything. I think, for the first period and most of the second period, Korpisalo was standing on his head. It didn't look like the Leafs were going to get anything by him, and it was extremely frustrating. You'd think at that point that maybe Freddie's going to let in a weak one, and it's going to be the same thing as game 1. But luckily, Zach Werenski took a little bit of a bad trip around the Leafs net and couldn't catch up to Matthews on the back check. And Matthews was able to tip home that puck to give them the 1-0 lead. And then, John Tavares probably played his best playoff game as a Toronto Maple Leaf to this day. And he scored the second goal, and everything was working. Marner looked better, a lot better than game 1. He was actually shooting the puck today. Riley was good. I didn't even mind how Tyson Barrie played. He looked better than game 1. Other standouts, I think the third line is still been very strong for the Leafs with Robertson, Kerfoot, Kapanen, and then Frederick Anderson. He's been good. I know he only faced 20 shots, but there were a couple good scoring opportunities that he was able to shut down, and he really kept the Leafs in the game. So, yeah, seriously, it was a complete game in my opinion for the Leafs, except for the power play. 0 for 5 on the power play. But hey, there's always got to be a negative, and then there was also a bigger negative near the end of the game as well.
Yeah, and we'll dive into that in a second. Matt, what were your thoughts on the game?
I mean, I guess the way to put it was, I think the first game against Columbus was like a real wake-up call for Leafs. And I think in the game 2, they actually woke up. I think they took a lot more chances. They had a lot more shots on net. Like you said, Marner, he was invisible in game 1. And in game 2, even though he still didn't score, he was at least, you could see him putting the effort, and it seemed like he was actually trying out there. Of course, Matthews was probably the only highlight of game 1. He was the only one who really had a shot in a scoring chance, and then in game 2 he actually scored. So defense was phenomenal. Like, it was way better. We limited Columbus shots. Like, I think we more than doubled Columbus Blue Jackets shots.
Maybe.
Believe.
I think they finished with 20. Leafs were like high 30s, low 40s, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what the exact shots were.
I mean, like you said, Leafs played as well as they can, and like especially coming off game 1, it was the best type of game you could really hope for as a Leafs fan. And in terms of Blue Jackets, they probably played like the Leafs did in game 1, and it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, the Leafs had, oh man, I can't math. I think they had 39 shots.
Yeah, and I know Matthews had an insane game. I was trying to find the expected goals for percentage for him, but I couldn't find it. But it was like almost the equivalent, if not more, than the entire Columbus Blue Jackets team.
No, that was Tavares.
Yeah, Tavares. Did I not say Tavares?
You said Matthews.
Oh,
I think.
whoops. I meant Tavares. Yeah. I also definitely cut out for a second because my internet connection is unstable. So, yay. But, yeah, I think the Leafs played a very, very good game last night. I was incredibly impressed in how they performed. I do want to get your thoughts before we talk about Muzzin. Should this Clifford hit be looked at by player safety? If you're not familiar with it, to start off the game, Clifford just absolutely decimated one of the Blue Jackets players. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Kukin. Yeah, there you go. So Kukin, and just absolutely steamrolled him. Do you think that player safety should look at it, and do you think it should have been a penalty?
I'm going to look it up again. Got to analyze it.
All right. Well, I'll talk through what I think, unless, Matt, you have something to add.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I didn't think it needed to really be a penalty. I mean, it was definitely questionable, and definitely could be debated as a penalty or not. But again, like, I don't think it was the worst play we've seen. Like, it definitely it could pass off as not a penalty, as it wasn't. So I honestly don't think it was anything too much that needs to be looked at more, to be honest.
Yeah, some people were debating whether or not it should be charging, as Aiden is watching it, so we can look out for that. But I didn't think it was worthy of a penalty or of a suspension, but I did see some of that online.
Yeah, I think charging might have been the way to go. Like, geez, what a hit. What a hit. That's like Nazem Kadri's hit on, I don't know who it was, but the Washington player in game 3 of that series like 4 years ago. Really woke up the Leafs. So, no, seriously, big hit for Clifford. He had to make an impact. I don't think it's suspension worthy. I know he left his feet, but I think like the hit like already happened, and then he kind of like jumped up, like at point of contact. He was still on the ice. So yeah, I kind of agree with the charging. It could have been charging, but like I think Kukin was still like he was still, yeah, like he just got the pass off. So honestly, I think it should be a clean hit. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it was a little borderline, I think, in terms of whether or not it should be charging. It was definitely a good way for the Leafs to start the game, make the Blue Jackets a little more nervous to go into the corners after game 1, where they could just sort of go in there without any sort of risk. And Clifford showed that there is, in fact, a risk when you do go into the corners, and he just absolutely steamrolled Kukin. Yeah, I guess that's sort of it. Now let's move on to the more unfortunate situation. Late in the game, I believe it was like around a minute left in the game, maybe 2 minutes, just under 2 minutes, with like a minute left in the Blue Jackets power play. Muzzin comes around the back of the net, and Pierre-Luc Dubois he cross-checks him in the back. And Muzzin sort of loses his balance, and he's like sort of stumbling and then falls, and he hits his head into the back of a Blue Jackets player, and then stayed down. So after that, obviously the trainer comes on the ice. He wasn't able to get up. Darren Dreger of TSN reported today that he lost feeling in his extremities, which is obviously very, very scary. I saw a couple of people thinking about a certain injury. Let me look it up very quickly. I think I Googled it. I didn't. I deleted the tab. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something where it could be as quick as a 2-week recovery to as long as potentially never recovering.
Wow.
He was taken to hospital and released overnight, and he's now back in the bubble, which is good. But what did you guys sort of think about that hit and the entire aftermath to it?
Yeah, it was a weird one. I think the cross-check that Dubois did on him, I think that should have been called. And, Muzzin went down right away. I think it was that got him. I don't think it was hitting his head on whoever that player's leg, I think, or back.
Just the back of the leg.
Or back of the leg. There you go. Yeah, I think the Dubois hit should have been 2 minutes for cross-checking. And, yeah, I mean, it was a weird one. It looked like Muzzin, lost balance after that hit. And I think they were saying on the broadcast, it's kind of like a shock effect, and it kind of starts in your upper back and trickles down to your hands and feet. So I think it was throughout his whole body. He felt something. And then obviously he tried to get up at first and then realized he couldn't, sat back down. So, I mean, it's sad. I don't remember the last time a Leafs player had to get stretched off the ice. So it's definitely a newer feeling for us. I guess we haven't really witnessed that in a while. And especially with the conditions going on right now, it's even more scarier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd have to agree. Matt, do you have any sort of thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree. I think the cross-check definitely should have been a penalty. And yeah, it's hard. It's going to be hard for Leaf fans because the defense has never been a strong suit of the Leafs. And Muzzino's probably one of the most stable defenders of the Leafs. It's going to be really questionable how they'll be able to make it through these next few games without him. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, but it's also sad because we're losing a crucial piece for Leafs defense.
Yeah, it was unfortunate to see. He will be out for the rest of the series. Leafs PR tweeted that out this morning. But he'll hopefully be back for the next series if they move on. I don't think the cross-check was the initial cause of it. It might have been. I don't know. I don't have a medical degree. I also didn't examine him overnight, and I have no idea what the issue might be. I think maybe a combination of the cross-check and hitting his head, or sort of like jamming, it was very weird the way he fell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I definitely think he lost balance, like from the cross check, because that's what made him fall. And then maybe hitting his head just made it even worse. So, like Connor said, we don't know. We didn't speak to Jake Muzzin.
Yeah, exactly. I understand your thinking that the cross check should have been a penalty, but unfortunately it is the playoffs and they just don't call any sort of penalties, especially with less than 2 minutes to go in a game. Even if it should be called, and I agree with you, it probably should have been called, they aren't going to call it. And this ultimately resulted in a very unfortunate situation, which could have been very, very bad. But who knows? Before we get your Stanley Cup predictions, let's talk about tomorrow night's game and Friday night's game. Sorry, Matt, we're not going to talk much about the Flyers because they're doing the play-in round thing.
Yeah.
And they're not even really the games
fair.
don't really matter.
No, that's completely fair. That's completely fair.
And obviously Leaf-centric podcast here. So we're going to hit that a little bit. I'm going to ask you 2 quick questions, and then we'll predict how we think those games are going to go. And I want to get your Stanley Cup predictions. So get that ready. But tomorrow night, who draws in for Muzzin? Who do you think comes into the lineup? Is it Rasmus Sandin? Is it Timothy Liljegren? Or is it Martin Marincin?
To be completely honest with you, I would feel more comfortable with them bringing in Martin Marincin. I think Rasmus Sandin is high risk, high reward. But with Marincin, you kind of know what you're getting. You're getting a guy who's going to be solid in the defensive zone, and that's it. And honestly, I'm comfortable with that. I don't want Sandin. Like, I know Sandin's the better player. Hands down, the better player. He has the skill. He has the speed. Defensively, I would take Marincin hands down. Also, Marincin can be on the penalty kill. He can replace Muzzin on the bottom pair with Hall, or not the bottom. Well, maybe it becomes the bottom pair or the second pair. But I don't know. Like, Sandin brings another aspect to the Leafs defense. Maybe the Leafs think that, okay, Columbus isn't getting many scoring opportunities. Maybe we don't even need to bring in a defensive defenseman. Maybe we go more offensive and bring in Sandin. I don't know what they're going to do, to be honest. I'm not sure.
Matt?
I'll argue that they'll bring in Sandin. I think because Columbus isn't a high-scoring team, I think that maybe they'll kind of go the direction of adding more into their offense and trying to penetrate that Columbus defense. Like you said, Sandin, high risk, high reward. But I think in playoffs, you can often see in playoff history, like young players like Sandin can always break out in the postseason. And I'm hoping that will happen. It'll be great to see Sandin break out as a player in the postseason and to see if that actually makes a difference.
Yeah. What I want them to do is I want them to try Marincin tomorrow night and Sandin Friday night. See which works better. Because I know Travis Dermott can play in the penalty kill, and he has in the past, but that is also very risky. Whether or not they take that risky outcome, maybe if they win tomorrow night, they go a bit more risky on the Friday.
I think if they win tomorrow, there won't be any lineup changes. I think they'll stick with what works.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah, I could see that. It's going to be very interesting to see what Sheldon Keefe chooses to do. Finally, on the Leafs, who starts in goal?
What?
Because they have a back-to-back. Do you go Freddie both nights?
Wait, what are you saying?
No, do you go Freddie both nights, or do you do Freddie and Campbell?
No, you go Freddie both nights. No question.
Freddie both nights.
Yeah.
I disagree.
What?
I think you go Freddie
I'm
Campbell.
actually surprised you even asked that question.
Well,
Okay,
maybe
but
it's because
say
What?
Freddie starts Thursday and then they lose. Would you start Campbell in a possible elimination game?
no, I would start Freddie in that situation.
No, you start Freddie back to back. This is the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know. I like Campbell. I think he's good.
That's so
You-
risky. No, Freddie's been
know.
insane, bro. He's like basically put up 2 shutouts in a row.
And he's had injuries all season, right? And I don't want to risk that.
This is the
back-to-back.
playoffs. No. You gotta go with the guy. You have to. He's had
Alright.
so
Thing
much
is-
time off. Like you can't just give him the back-to-back
That's
off
true.
now.
Things
All
like
right.
Toronto, the goalies is 1 and 2. It's not like a really 1A, 1B situation. So I think you kind of gotta just go with
Yeah.
your number one guy.
It's true. I don't know. I'm not sure about that situation. I think you might start Campbell in the second one to give him a rep.
I guarantee the Leafs aren't even debating that.
What happens if Freddie gets blown up tomorrow night?
You don't start Campbell in an elimination game.
Yeah,
though.
you don't
That's the
start. You
thing.
don't start Campbell. You know, definitely not.
All right. Well, we'll see what will happen. Quickly before we do our hot takes, and I have a very hot take coming up when we
Yo,
do
that was
them.
a hot take question. That was.
That's true.
I was like, what? Who starts in the Leafs goal? What?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I
okay.
think that's an actual debate that needs to be had is, do you start Freddie back to back? Do you risk that? Obviously, he's a guy who likes to play, and he's done well in the past couple of games, but there's an increased risk of injury, and you don't want to tire him out. He's going to have to do 5 potential playoff rounds. So do you give him that one night of rest where he can take a break, and you can rely on Campbell, who you know is good, clearly, and it's not putting you at any risk of losing a draft pick in that whole trade, because right now this play-in round counts as the regular season in terms of those games, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. I think you start Campbell in the second game. I
Wow.
don't think you risk it. I don't think you risk Freddie getting hurt. But there's a reason I'm not a coach and I'm not in Sheldon Keefe's position. So he ultimately knows best, and we'll see what he chooses to do. But let's wrap this podcast up because we have been going for a while with predictions. Who do you think is going to be in the Stanley Cup final, and who will win? Who wants to go first? Should I?
Sure.
All right, I'll give you guys time to think because I've sort of sprung this question on you last second. My Stanley Cup prediction, in the West, I find this pretty easy. I think it'll be the Colorado Avalanche in the West. In the East, it's a bit more challenging. I think Boston's good, but they haven't showed it so far. And with the amount of turmoil that's currently going on in that team, I'm not really sure about them anymore. This is very tough. I'm going to go. I don't know why I keep thinking Carolina, but I'm going to go Carolina. I think they're supposed to have Dougie Hamilton back, it's suspected that they will have Dougie Hamilton back for their first game of the next playoff round, or the first playoff round. And I think that defense is scary. Goalies scare me a little bit in terms of Mrazek and Reimer, but who knows? Reimer has proved in the past he's good in the playoffs, and he had a great game last night, and Mrazek was good in the first 2 games. So we'll see. Who wants to go next after my probably hot take in terms of who I picked?
Well, for me, do you want to go first, Aiden, or?
No, you go.
I think for me, I have the same West. I had Colorado. I think that was kind of an easy pick. Like when you asked me, the first team I thought of for West was Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
This might be counting what I said earlier, and I'm completely biased on this,
Oh boy.
but I think it's going to be the Flyers. I'm kind of like I'm a hypocrite. I'm being hypocritical of what I said earlier today, but I just had that feeling with the way we've been playing this whole season, and I think Flyers are one of the deepest teams in the league, and I think that in the playoffs that can be enough to make a difference. And I really think it's going to be Colorado and Flyers. However, I can't say that Flyers will win the cup. I do think between 2 it will be Colorado. if one of them was come away with it. And so I think Colorado are favorites to win Stanley Cup.
All right. I don't think I said who I thought would win, so I'm going to go with Carolina. Why? I don't know, but I'm going to go with Carolina.
Wow. Okay. I really want to go with another team besides Colorado, but I'll say Colorado. The only team that I could see beating them is maybe St. Louis. Colorado. And for the East, I'm going to say Tampa Bay. I think they're a team that's surprisingly maybe flying under the radar a little bit. Like, they really should be one of the favorites to win still, but people aren't really talking about them right now. And I think, that sweep last year, they're going to have motivation. And I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win the cup against Colorado.
All right. So we got Colorado and Carolina here. We got
Tampa.
Philly, Colorado. I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction with Matt. And then I don't know where Aiden is. I'm going to assume it's below me because on my screen it's below.
No, I'm like
Left? Right?
Yeah, that way.
We'll do wherever. Is going Tampa Bay, Colorado, with Tampa Bay taking it. So those are our predictions. Let's quickly do hot takes, and then we can get out of here. Should I go first because I actually have one sort of prepared?
Yes.
All right. My hot take. The Toronto Raptors don't lose another regular season game. They go 8-0. 8-0 heading into the playoffs.
Sheesh.
I don't know if that's hot or not. I'd have to look at their schedule, but I think that might be kind of hot.
Jeez. I don't really have one right now. Thinking. Okay. Toronto Maple Leafs.
All right.
The next game, they are going to explode offensively, and they will win 6-0 against Columbus.
6-0. Wow. Okay.
3 shutouts in a row for Freddie, basically. Well, 2, but
2. Yeah, I was going to say, where did
we
the
don't
third
want to
one come
talk
from?
about that one goal that he let in.
Yeah. Matt, what is your hot take?
My hot take will be the Raptors beat the Milwaukee Bucks in the conference finals in less games than last season.
Whoa.
Wow,
Okay.
so in
That's a hot
5?
take.
In 5
I just
games?
think
Or 4?
collectively as a team, Raptors, I think as a team, Raptors are even better than they were last year, like minus Kawhi. I think they've, like, the way they play together has
Mhm.
improved. And I think with the way they've been playing, I think it's enough to stop Giannis and Bucks. Maybe even in less games.
All right. Well, those were 3, I'd say, pretty hot takes. Those are the hottest we've had in a while, so I like that. Let's sort of wrap it up, I guess. Matt, thank you for coming on the podcast. We
Thanks for
really,
having me.
really appreciate it. If you want to check out any of his stuff, 55 Sports will be linked down below. We'll also link his channel where he does short films.
Waterboy
below.
Productions.
Yep. We'll see if he joins Fansided or not, or if he joins some sort of website. I think he should, but who knows? It's ultimately his decision. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Good luck as we get closer and closer to classes restarting. But yeah, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. You can check me out on Twitter at CWG Somerville. Or you can check out my other soccer podcast at the MLS Multiplex podcast, as well as my written work at mlsmultiplex.com. Aiden, you can check out him on Instagram at aiden.silliphant, correct?
Aiden Silliphant.
Aiden Silliphant. It's just Aiden Silliphant.
Yeah.
I should know that by now. At Aiden Silliphant. He doesn't have a Twitter, so you can't check him out there. Check out the Unlimited podcast, which he's putting up game reactions immediately after every Leafs game, so you can go and watch those. But yeah, thank you for listening. We will be back next week. And until then, peace.